Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, tailor-made for Canadian mortgage industry professionals. Proudly presented by BetterWay Mortgage Group, this podcast is your trusted source for insider insights, market updates, and strategies to elevate your career in the ever-evolving world of mortgage brokering. Whether you're a seasoned broker with a BetterWay Mortgage Group or an industry enthusiast looking to stay ahead, our episodes are designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the Canadian mortgage space. All right, we're back for another episode of the Mortgage Broker Podcast. Sitting here with Jason Marshall and Derek Williamson as always, and most importantly, Joe Sammut, our partner in Ontario. This is going to be a great episode today. We're going to jump into Joe and Andrea's experience in the finance industry, the mortgage broker space, to be specific. And we're going to talk about the launch of Ontario, a BetterWay Mortgage Group in Ontario, and everything to do with that. So let's turn it off to Joe. Joe, maybe a little bit about yourself and why we're sitting here.
Well, first of all, I'm here because of you guys. I liked what I heard. I liked the reputation that you came with. I've heard a lot of great things about you. And Andrea and I in Ontario had got to the point where we needed a change. We needed to do something a little different, a little more proactive, and wanted to get back to our industry. So we had sat for a long time thinking of who we might want to partner with, and the introduction came, and here we are today. So I'm honored to be a part of this ABW group across Canada, and looking to launch Ontario to get things wrapped up and get rolling in our province.
We're super excited about that. It's a big. It was on our roadmap from day one of getting into, being a broker owner and acquiring a BetterWay Mortgage Group. So we're excited to have that opportunity to work with you and just all the opportunities that province allows us to start to see and take advantage of. So before we kind of go too deep into that, and we'll touch on a market update as well in Ontario, because I know a lot of our listeners, mostly being a BetterWay Mortgage Group brokers here in BC, are going to be curious on what's going on in Ontario from a market perspective. But maybe just a little bit about your experience. I know Andrea's not here with us today, but she's a big part of you and your business and your experience in the industry. Maybe we can just kind of go back to when it all started.
Okay, how long do you have? So I've been in the business 30 years and started out as an agent at the beginning of my career, and then started a brokerage firm way back when. And then ultimately through different morphings of companies, we ended up starting Mortgage Architects. Oh my goodness, 16 years ago now. And the idea was that we were going to start it to build a national brand, which it ultimately became. And at the very same time, we started a lender, which was originally My Next Mortgage Company, which is now Radius. We had a vision at that time that we were going to be launching something that was going to be national, well reputed, the best of the best, top of the top producers, and compliance and things like that. So Andrea and I've been doing this 30 years. Andrea's been working with me now for 25. She too is licensed, and she runs the whole operational setup in the background. She's not forward facing or client facing, so that's my job. And then we've assembled a team over the years where we service our own mortgage portfolio. We lend a lot of private money as well, which is something that this industry affords us the ability to do. And we've just always built our clientele with integrity and the honest advice and professional advice that we'd want to expect to get from somebody else. We operate out of a town called Orangeville in Ontario, and we service all of Ontario. So our clients are from end to end. And again, we do great volume, very, very happy with the volume that we did. But this afforded us the ability now to take our business to the next level and share what we know, share our experiences, share our reputation, share our lender contacts with other agents that want to make a beautiful career out of this. Because let's face it, this is a phenomenal industry and it's afforded us a great lifestyle, and we just want to share that with people.
Yeah, no doubt. You touched on something there just around Mortgage Architects. So Mortgage Architects, for those of you who don't know, it is the network that we own one of our franchises with. And you mentioned you were there from day one. You're part of the original group that started that. So it is owned and operated. The network is owned and operated by the DLCG, Dominion Lending Center group of companies now.
Excellent.
But Yeah, that's pretty interesting just in its own right. Just the fact that you were a part of what is Mortgage Architects today. It is a national brand. It is a
Yeah,
very
it sure
well
is. Yeah.
known brand nowadays. So like, how did that all start? And like,
It's safe to say that it started because there was a bunch of us that agreed that a way or the ways that other companies were running things within a brokerage, they weren't doing things. There wasn't economies of scale. There wasn't opportunities for very seasoned people to expand their career, and it was more designed to basically it was very vanilla, one model fits all. So we decided to start Mortgage Architects with a peer group. We wanted to start with a lead planner idea, and then within that lead planning there would be junior agents working with them that they could learn from, almost like a, not really, but almost, what if I could do it again, I would do almost like an apprenticeship program, have people come in and learn from people who already know what they're doing. So that's the premise behind why we started Mortgage Architects. And we launched right around the economic crisis of 2007, 8, and 9. And we had to then really shift the way we did things, as did everybody. I mean, we had to make sure that we were staying top of mind with our clients. We had to make sure that we were staying top of mind with lenders because nobody knew where the market was going at the time. So we continuously reinvented ourselves to becoming what we are today through the sale to DLCG. And it's been a great marriage ever since.
So through that startup, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts there, and definitely a couple different hats you would have been wearing. So at that time, I imagine you were still brokering.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably your main piece of your business, and getting that all set up. Like, were you heavily involved in the recruitment and growth and strategy and lender access and everything else that came with starting a network?
That's a great question, and you know the answer. No, the answer is no, because we left that to corporate Mortgage Architects, and we had some great people at the helm that were doing exactly that. They were building the relationships with lenders. I ran my own show within Mortgage Architects, Andrea and I, and we never built a huge agency, so we were more production based. We dealt with our clients. We had a really great client base, and from that client base we were able to expand on that, and that was really my focus. My focus was always to do my own personal production and production within the house. And it's only, again, since our relationship and our discussions now, that we're really looking to expand that now into Ontario by building an agency force there. So it's a complete shift from what, but bottom line is, I guess you could say, we know the business grassroots all the way up, and we know the lenders, we know the products, we know the clients, and now we want to just, again, share that to expand.
it's very similar path to what Derek and I took with Thrive Mortgage Group, being focused on personal production, building a team and a business around that. And I think that's one of the most impressive pieces from your experience, is that you took the role of a mortgage broker and built a business out of it based on building a team with teammates that have specific roles in the journey.
We built back end. We built the back office. So we had the right compliance, the right underwriting, the right client services. We had all of that in-house. And our business, just so you know, has been remote for virtual for 22 years. And we didn't meet with clients in person. Everything we did was virtual business, and that was really what we wanted to expand on. And that's something that COVID or the pandemic has really helped a lot of brokers become more virtual as an aspect of their business. But we had been doing that for 20 plus years prior to that. So we really focused on the back end of the business to service the clients. And, when I said grassroots, we learned not only how to attract a client, how to keep and nurture that client and close the deal, and then nurture that relationship going forward. And one of the things that we really prided ourselves in is that we knew our clients better virtually than the majority of people that were meeting with clients face to face. Just the right questions to ask, the right systems to follow, and things like that. So we really built on that, and that's something that we want to build on further now.
Which probably came from just having that consistent process that was the same system every time. So the same questions, the same planning sessions, the same everything right through to keep that consistency. So just, as we move out of like your experience, and thank you for touching on that. Just now we're here. We're launching a BetterWay Mortgage Group in Ontario. Maybe we can just start there, and why.
We reached the point in our career where we realized we had to get back to the industry. And what better way to give back to the industry than to share or impart our knowledge on other agents, other brokers that want to do as well as we did. This industry has afforded us a very good life, and we want to share that with whoever wants to listen. So when we had talked about building a team, I could never justify it because I couldn't make myself competitive enough as a lone wolf, as a one person shop or one production shop. I couldn't validate trying to convince somebody to come on board with us when I couldn't be fair and equitable for them. So with this partnership that we have now, you guys are bringing all of that to the table. That's going to allow us to capitalize on that that aspect of the business in Ontario, and we're going to be more than competitive. Our training, our knowledge, our history, experience, things that we're going to be sharing with the agency force on a weekly basis through calls, mentoring groups, things like that. That's really where I think this is it's going to shine, and it's going to be the difference between just being in the business or making this a career. And that's what we're really striving to do with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that, like, we've talked about this a lot with other brokers, broker owners, just the fact that there's for the actual consumer, what's going on in the industry actually isn't ideal. And what I mean by that is a really good broker with a lot of experience could be, with a smaller group that's, maybe a cumulative doing around $400 million in production a year. But even that amount of volume isn't enough to give that very experienced broker all the products, all the access to the lenders that they need to be, ultimately giving their clients the best choice of products. And that's unfortunate for the consumer, but it obviously bodes well for us is running a massive super brokerage, because it attracts those types of brokers to us, which again, it's kind of that double-edged sword. It's not ideal for the consumer. The consumer ultimately needs to seek out brokers that are working with elite super brokerages to ensure that they have all the choice. And I mean, maybe Jason, you can kind of touch on that, like that, just your experience in on the recruitment side, which, will kind of segue into like our growth plans with Ontario as well.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Joe's reputation speaks for itself. I mean, when we talk about launching a franchise in Ontario, you have to have somebody good and reputable on the street. And I've been at Mortgage Architects. I had the privilege of being at Mortgage Architects in a leadership capacity for the last 5 years. And no matter what conversation had come up around the brokers within the company, Joe and Andrea's name had always come up as, these were one of the pioneers of architects. And so when it came to working out in Ontario, structuring a franchise, it was just a no-brainer. So also in the previous role that I had with architects, I had the opportunity to look at brokerages and franchises across the country and kind of see what sort of value proposition that they were utilizing when they went to the market to go and build and recruit. And there's a lot of great franchises out there that run very, very well, but what we're trying to do is do things a little bit different, and that's more education, more mastermind, more summits, more of a culture-based learning group. And we're also fortunate enough to have the lenders who we have great partners with and great relationships with look at the statuses that we have in the West and help us transition those over to the East. So I think from a growth perspective, there's a lot of opportunity to, kind of tap into some of these, some of these great brokerages out there that may be looking for help in terms of, increasing their offerings to their brokers. A lot of the times it does become hard to build and attract and bring on new talent when you don't have the full offering. The other pieces around that is retention. Retention becomes very hard when you have, recruiters from other companies reaching out to your roster all the time and throwing different offers and different ventures in front of their face. So, I think from a BetterWay perspective and the BetterWay Mortgage Group side of things, the structure that we have built around the access points to our lenders, the relationships with our partners, all of the events, I think we do, in person and virtual, over 50 events per year. I think we can add a lot of value, just like the other brokerages, but I think we're trying to do something a little bit different that gives more. And I think, Ontario there's a ton of brokers out there, and we can, certainly get the word out there about what we're doing.
Only thing I would add that kind of ties all these conversations in is you know, every brokerage can do training, but like, is it valuable training, right? And the big thing that comes with our experience in the industry, like you hit the nail on the head, like building a system, having a process, like you're actually built a business, right? And we talk about this all the time, but you know, a lot of brokers are just brokers, and they're kind of running around. They're lost. They're just doing deals constantly. And you know, our goal with all of this is that our brokers can find more success, right? And whatever success means to that broker, it could be more volume, it could be more time, more efficiency, it could be hiring an assistant, right? And we've done all this, like we've actually lived through it, we've done it, we've built it, and that's the kind of stuff that we're going to constantly share.
Yeah. I think if I may, again, you just touched the nail on the head, because there are a lot of great leaders, a lot of great agents and brokers in this industry, but there's nothing stopping them from becoming better. There's nothing stopping them from learning from each other, because I think part of the biggest problem our industry has, if we have any problem at all, it's that people, they want to hoard, they want to hide, they want to keep to themselves their trade secrets. There aren't any trade secrets anymore. It's just, let's share the information, let's share the knowledge, and let's share little strategies that have worked, and let's see how it can help other people. As simple as having virtual meetings rather than face to face, saving time. I'm sitting with 3 guys that have 3 young families, and it's so inspiring to hear you spending time with your family and wanting to spend time with your kids, rather than being out at appointments 20 hours a day. So there are so many efficient ways to run our business today. And we, since the advent of Zoom, holy smokes, that's changed the industry. And just, I mean, that's just an example, but we have so many different things that we can learn from one another. And that's really, I think, what it's about, imparting the knowledge on everybody in our team.
When you share, especially tools, tips, and tactics, like when you share, just to me, it naturally helps you grow. And we're in an industry that's becoming increasingly more collaborative with even competitors. Like we're having great relationships in these types of, sharing type situations, right? So it's good to see it. I love to see that. And it's, I talked to a mortgage specific coach based out of the US recently, and I find the US is so ahead of us when it comes to, well, a lot of things in our country. They're far ahead of us, but especially in this industry, almost every single loan officer in the States has a coach and is constantly trying to get better and up their game. But for whatever reason, we haven't quite got there as an industry. And that's the focus that we've taken here at BetterWay. Is we want that, educational type culture that's always trying to be better and get better and up their game. And it's just like, you look at Steph Curry, one of the best basketball players in the NBA. He's got, he spends probably millions of dollars on nutritionists, trainers, all these things to just constantly get better. And that's, of course he's going to do that. Well, why wouldn't the number one mortgage broker be doing that? Right. So it's kind of interesting to just see where we're going. And I feel like we are getting there, and we want to be leaders in that here at BetterWay. And you bring that to the table, like from a perspective of willing to share, willing to, put more into this to get better.
I've had a huge luxury in my career, and that is my wife, Andrea, has been a part of my career, our business, for 25 years. So I have the luxury of having that as my sounding board, and she feeds off of me, I feed off of her, and then our staff feeds off of both of us. And for agents out there that are a lone wolf, I think to look at us almost like a coaching environment where they can have us to feed off of, or people that we can put in different positions to make sure that we're there to train and mentor these people. To have that coach or that partner in their business, I think is going to go very, very far, because everybody needs the support of somebody, and why not have the support of a bigger entity?
Totally.
Yeah.
Jason, maybe you can just kind of take it away. Like we want to grow. That's what we want. Like we talk about this all the time. Our goal is to do at least $10 billion in production very quickly.
That's billion with a B.
Yes.
Billion with a B.
That's right. And I mean, it's a big goal, but Ontario allows us to get there. And maybe we can just touch on like some of our growth plans in Ontario.
Yeah, it is a massive goal. I think it's a goal that is attainable, and circling around the leadership points. I mean, good leaders, they produce good leaders, and if we can build our organization from the leadership and help empower other brokers that are going to want to, in theory, become leaders, that's what we're looking to do. Now, because of all that, I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable for us to look at adding, $500 million to $1 billion a year in production. And that is strictly based, in my opinion, on where we're at today in the market, where the market's going, the market share that the broker industry is capturing opposed to the bank origination. I think you're seeing a lot of exodus with the bank specialist in that channel. And those great mortgage specialists, they need training, they need a good place to land, they need an organization that's going to help them transition from banker to broker. So I think you've kind of have a perfect storm of what's coming up right now in terms of a growth expectation for movement in the industry, and of course aligning yourself with a brokerage and or a network that's going to help you tap into your database for the renewal business. And we all know the next 3 years is the largest renewal book in the Canadian mortgage industry and in the history of the Canadian mortgage space. So, how do we tap into that? How do we build a business around what's coming over the next 3 years? If we're out in the marketplace doing that for our brokers and we can provide that to other brokers that are on the outside looking in, the sky's really the limit for us.
To put that in perspective, the $10 billion number sounds absolutely massive, or even $500 million. I think the number's roughly $675 billion in mortgages coming up for renewal before 2026. So to give you a scope on level of achievement, it's definitely there.
Maybe just a brief Ontario market update. Like, where are things? How has the market been in the last, say, 12 months? Where is it at now? Where do you expect us to go?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because up until this recent downturn in the market that we've experienced, Canada was very much regional. You had regional advantages in BC, Alberta, Ontario had its economic sector, and the East Coast has always marched to their own drum as well. So we've had very regional differences across the country, and I think right now we don't. I think right now we're more looking at recovering from what we've been going through with interest rate increases and inflation. And I believe that a consumer today is a more prepared consumer than ever before. And I believe that the consumer, whether it be somebody that is buying a house or somebody that's just refinancing a mortgage, their levels of expectations and their knowledge, their knowledge bank that they have available to them today makes them a better, more educated consumer than ever before. So they're ready to pull the trigger. I think what's happening is the general consumer, whether it be the East or the West or anywhere in between, they're still waiting for that puck, or the shoe to drop. They're waiting for a bubble to burst. But I don't know if there's any bursting any more than it's already burst. So I think what's going to happen, we're expecting rate declines in the summer, maybe into the fall of this year. It's going to bring it perhaps down to a level that's a little more acceptable to people. I know full well, I will almost bank on it, that we're not going back to COVID rates. Those rates are gone. They should never have been here to begin with. And I believe that the Canadian consumer is realizing that that was unrealistic, and the expectations to sustain that were unrealistic as well. So if we ended up at a 4.5-5% interest rate by the end of this year, that is acceptable. And I truly believe that would be a national average that I think the general consumer can sink their teeth into. Job security, we've got to look at, and we have to bear that in mind, because without jobs, the consumer confidence is going to go down. But I believe the interest rates will take care of themselves. Consumer spending, I think people have got to stop spending money. They have to they have to start managing their unsecured debt. And if they can manage that, and we can get interest rates down to an acceptable level, and job security and the economy starts to recover, I think we're going to be fine. And I think the future going forward, to your point, the amount of mortgages that are up for renewal, and the general consumer needs to be educated this time around. They're not going to just guess anymore. They're going to have to make an educated decision. I believe that the marketplace is ripe for the picking. People need to rely on services like ours to formulate a more educated decision going forward, not like the past. So I think it's very, very healthy, and I think the forecast for the next foreseeable future is very, very promising.
It's a great update. I appreciate that, and I think you nailed it. I think almost exactly what you said would be the same for Vancouver, currently, and in the BC market. So, a couple things I just wanted to touch on is just the value to existing brokers in the West, and which would be the same for brokers in Ontario as we grow Ontario, around licensing. And maybe Jason, you can kind of just take that one away.
Yeah. So, I think one of the other things that we've seen since the pandemic has been, brokers looking to expand licensing in multi-province. What we've found is a big benefit is if we're operational in multi-provinces under the A BetterWay Mortgage Group franchise, we can actually allow our brokers that have licensing, as an example, in British Columbia, to also obtain licensing into Ontario and have the same lender access points and the same infrastructure that an Ontario broker would have. So, there's a few different layers to that and how E&O insurance works and all of that kind of global franchise. But I think going forward, I mean, we look at it, primarily a lot from BC brokers looking to obtain licensing in Alberta and vice versa. But we do have quite a few that also have licensing held into Ontario. So we can help with that reciprocity, as they call it, and getting set up correctly under the E&O policies and all of that. So really direct access to the lenders in multi-province is a huge benefit that I don't think many of the other operations out there can speak to at the level that we have it at right now. So definitely a big opportunity there as well.
Well said. I mean, I have a list of bullets here, and believe it or not, we've touched on almost all of them throughout this episode. But I do have one I definitely want to touch on, which is lenders. Lender access is, I mean, we say it all the time. It's probably the number one reason why brokers join our group is because of our incredible lenders that we have access to, how they treat us, the top tier status that they provide to our brokers, the products and the rates and everything that come with that. One lender in particular that is making a comeback into the Canadian mortgage space, which is very exciting for us, and I know especially exciting for you, Bank of Montreal. Maybe you can touch on your previous experience with Bank of Montreal. You were actually one of their top brokers previously when they were in the space. Let's touch there and what's to come.
Well, back in the day, Bank of Montreal, what's really, really funny is 30 years ago when I got in the business, I went to the very first Ontario Association annual meeting, and the president of Bank of Montreal stood up at the time. I can't recall his name. And he said, "We're not in the space and we're never getting in the space." And the only question I had was, then why are you here speaking at a mortgage brokers convention? Anyway, fast forward a few years and they got into the space, and very well received because they were a big bank, and my clients were all big bank clients. They were bank worthy. They wanted banking relationships and all that. And Bank of Montreal came out with what was called MBanks at the time, which was one of the very first virtual electronic banking channels in the Canadian space. And they were doing such a phenomenal job as a lender. They had great underwriting, great service, great products, and great rates. I loved them. They were wonderful to deal with. Well, they left the space in, and it's hard for me to believe this, but it was 2006 or 2007 when they left. And I never ever thought they'd come back. Well, lo and behold, over the years, you hear that they're coming back so that way they can perfect maybe what they didn't do as good a job in the broker space back then. They wanted to perfect it. And I was on a pretty exclusive call the other day with Bank of Montreal. They're coming back into the space. Their offerings sound very impressive. Very, very impressive. And not that our current lender partners aren't impressive either, but their offerings, that sounds as though they're coming out, they're going to test the waters. They want to see what it's like to get back into the broker space. They want to deal with, they want to deal with top clients, and they're going to then launch it nationally, hopefully by the end of this year. That's not me saying that. I mean, I'm not predicting, but I think the rumblings were that they were going to be launching by the end of the year. And it's very refreshing to hear they're coming back in. So what's interesting about that, to anybody that is interested in listening to this podcast, is our lender options. I always said that when the market started to turn a year and a half ago, that lenders will adapt. Lenders are going to start to adapt to give us products that we can then offer to our clients so they can get their money out onto the street. Well, not only have the lenders all adapted, we have lenders coming into the space, like Bank of Montreal coming back in. So that is so refreshing. And that's one more positive thing for our industry that I believe tells us that we're all here to stay for a good long time. So very, very exciting stuff.
I think a burning question there that a lot of brokers would have is just when are they launching, which to your point, like it's the intention is to go national and be in every province in the country. They're going to roll it out slowly so they can, ensure that they don't make any errors and take on too much volume or too much, they don't want to stress their new system, right? So do you have any indication on when you will have access as an Ontario-based broker?
From what I was told, it's going to be by March. It's imminent. It's coming. And I do not know what their plan is to roll it out, but I believe by March we should have access to, and again, some select brokers in Ontario will have access to them.
Is there any like one product that they touched on that, or one, strategy when it comes to just policy and underwriting that stood out to you?
The two things that they touched on, not that this is a big deal, but 130-day rate guarantees, that's a little interesting. It just goes to show that they're trying to be a little different and they're trying to be proactive. And then the other was the net worth program, which had a lot of flexibility in the TDS because they're looking for that upper echelon kind of client. Those two in particular were quite exciting.
That's very exciting. And like to your point, like just seeing more demand, there's more demand from a lender perspective to get into the broker space because, from when the time they left to where it's now, this industry, the Canadian mortgage space, is far more sophisticated and professional than it was then.
Very much.
We have a far bigger market share of origination than we did then as well. So it's obvious as to why a bank like that would be trying to get back into the space. So that's very exciting to see and hear, of course. And I know our mortgage brokers at A Better Way ask us almost every day about BMO and when it's coming. So that's a cool update.
I can't speak for them, but again, it's coming.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up here, we have a segment that we launched from the original episode. The introduction to this podcast is just around listener interaction. We want to hear from our listeners. So if you have feedback, if you have questions we want to address on the show, make sure to submit those to us. You can DM them to us on our social platforms, reach out to us through our website or whatever platform you're listening to this episode on. But one of the questions that has come up is, if I am licensed in BC and Ontario or Alberta or another province that we're operational in, do I have to pay E&O insurance for each province? And the great answer to that is no. Our E&O policy is it's one cost for every province that we're operational in. And that's our brokerage specifically. So depending on what brokerage you're with, you'd have to check with them. But we have a great E&O policy that covers you in every province that we're operational in and that you're licensed in. So yeah, some good news there with that question. Just in conclusion, I mean, it's been a great episode. Thank you for jumping on. Like, to hear about your experience, you have a pretty extensive background. It's pretty impressive what you've done in this space already. And we're super excited to.
You're making me feel old.
It's not old. You've done a lot of cool stuff in this industry.
Thank you.
To your point, like it's an awesome industry to be involved in. I pinch myself every morning that I found this career. And just to touch on the growth and what we're doing in Ontario and having you involved. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if you guys have any parting thoughts there.
No, I mean, we've kind of covered a lot here, and I'm super thrilled, and I know we're all speaking for all of us. We're super thrilled that we're partnering with you for this venture. Like I said earlier, I've known you from my architect's days as well, and just in the industry in general. And not many people can have the tenure that you've had in this industry and have as good of reputation and as you do. And hey, no one says a bad word about you.
Thank you,
Derek.
Thanks.
We haven't found anyone yet.
Let's hope you don't.
Yeah, it's just such a natural fit. And, from our very first conversation, all of our goals, morals, everything have just aligned perfectly. So really excited. And honestly, we know what A Better Way has done in BC and Alberta, and just simply to replicate that in Ontario, I know it's going to be a success.
Yeah, we're
very
excited.
confident in that.
We're excited. A closing stat for you guys. And thank you for all those kind words. But when I got in the business 30 years ago, mortgage brokers accounted for less than 3% of mortgage origination. What's the number today?
I think we're almost 50%.
Yeah, 40. I heard 46. Yeah. I don't know how real that is.
Yeah, that's what I heard last.
That is a telltale sign that the Canadian consumer needs the advice of a professional and the variety of options made available to them. And that's why the brokerage community is here for the long haul. And that is exciting as well.
And is more convoluted that our government makes these rules and more clients are going to need education and on how to get the right product for them. That's great. So thanks again. I mean, a quick teaser for our next episode. We're going to be continuing to dive into topics that we're training on regularly. Whether it's the director of WOW position, which Joe and I are actually going to be speaking on stage at a conference coming up here. We're going to be diving into all these types of things. So we're really looking forward to that. A couple notes on upcoming events. All the BetterWay events that we've done historically in BC, we're going to be doing those in Ontario as well. So we're really looking forward to some events and a really enticing event schedule that will be coming out shortly. And if you're a mortgage broker that's not licensed with a BetterWay Mortgage Group and want to be licensed, whether it's Ontario, BC, or Alberta, make sure to reach out. We're always looking to grow. We want to work with like-minded individuals. So reach out, and Jason will probably call you back within 15, 20 minutes and tell you everything about that. So yeah, on to the next one, and thanks for listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you found value in this show, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Your support is incredibly appreciated. We also welcome your reviews and feedback, which are crucial in helping us deliver outstanding educational content. Feel free to share your thoughts. A 5-star review would be fantastic if you think we earned it. Lastly, a vital announcement about Backpack Buddies, our chosen charity for 2024. This remarkable organization addresses a hidden hunger issue many are unaware of. In British Columbia, while school districts provide meals during school hours, numerous children face food scarcity at home, particularly during weekends. Backpack Buddy steps in to support these vulnerable children, ensuring they have easy to prepare, familiar food for weekends. This is achieved through collaborations with schools and an extensive distribution network. Your contribution can make a significant difference. With just $20, you can give a child in need a food bag from Backpack Buddies, filled with enough meals and snacks to sustain them over the weekend and more. Once again, thank you for listening, and see you on the next one. We're here in the warehouse today. There's over 25 of us packing. The goal is to pack as much food as we can for the kids in the next 2 hours.
We are stuffing bags to help feed kids that don't go home with meals on the weekend.
I'm actually unpacking and getting the food ready for the boxes while we have a crew packing individual bags.
Hello, we are here at the Backpack Buddies. It's a great cause. We are super happy to partnership with the Equitable Bank.
Feels pretty awesome. It reminds myself, and I'm sure everybody else, how thankful I am that I have meals to put on my table.
Phenomenal cause. Our partners Equitable Bank are supporting. A lot of our brokers are in-house as well.
At the end, we have Jason packing them into bags of 5.
Super happy to be a part of Backpack Buddies. Awesome charity that the BetterWay Mortgage Group is supporting. Super happy to be here, and yeah, let's get a lot of food out. We just learned a great stat that this actually feeds 6,000 kids a week all throughout BC. Amazing cause and a great day here.